I'm Ryan Brennan, and this is the Lost in the Midlands podcast, brought to you by Midlands Dumpster Services and Seawright Roofing. And today I'm here with a singer, a songwriter, an American Idol finalist, Oliver Steele. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Absolutely, man. No problem.
Yeah, and I wanted to wish you congratulations. I understand you just got engaged.
I did. Thank you very much.
That is a life-changing event, probably one of many in the past year or two, right?
Yeah, it's been a crazy roller coaster year. It really has. So
you've been on quite a journey, and I want to start at the beginning of your journey. I'm interested to hear kind of, and it sounds like are you from Tennessee or?
Yeah, so I was born in Michigan, but when I was like 3, moved down to Tennessee. I grew up there. I was raised there.
Awesome. Now, was there a lot of since you're near Knoxville, is there a lot of musical influence in Tennessee? Is there a lot of country stars that are part of the?
They call it Music City. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's music everywhere. And I grew up in a household with too many guitars to count, too many instruments all over the place. So it absolutely is it's part of the culture there. It's all over the place.
And it was part of your household too. So from a young age, you were kind of introduced to the music scene. And would you say the artist kind of came out of you, or did somebody kind of help mold the artist?
I like to refer to myself as an amalgamation of my influences. So
cool. First
one being my dad. It's the biggest one. I mean, he was a legendary guitar player, played with so many incredible people, absolute legends that he collaborated with. But when I was younger, there's several artists in my life that have really shaped and molded me and my taste. I mean, I can remember the first CD I ever bought was a Green Day album. I bought a Green Day album, and then one of the first albums that was gifted to me was a Coldplay album.
Yeah.
But I think that I call them the big four for me. It's Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, my dad, and then probably the biggest impact is probably Jack Johnson. Those 4 people really kind of shaped my sound as it is today.
And would you say that from an early, as far as you can remember, were you passionate about music? At some point, did you realize you had this great talent?
I always felt sort of like a calling to it. I felt differently about music than I felt about other things. It's hard to describe, but it's a sort of feeling that you kind of feel inside. But it took me a long time to really dive headfirst into it and pursue it as an actual, passion, let alone a career.
Yeah.
So, it took some time, but it's always been there.
That's awesome. When you were on the American Idol journey, I know in the beginning you were one of the last people to go on. Is that correct?
I was the very last person to go on.
The last person to go on, and you moved the judges to tears. Was that in that performance?
There was definitely some crying in the room. I think Lionel was the first to break, but or actually no, it was me. I was probably the first person that started crying, just because it's having my dad there was just a really, really special moment for me. It was really meaningful.
Going last, did you kind of feel that nerve like in school when you were the last to present, or?
Yes and no. So I think for me, it was just the fact that they didn't tell me until an hour before the actual audition. They're like, hey, they pulled me aside for a rehearsal, and it's not a rehearsal, it's an executive. She's like, hey, so I don't know if you know, but you're going to go last. And I'm like, you mean she's like, yeah, you're going to close out the season. Your audition's the final one. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for telling me an hour before I'm supposed to head down there. And then she's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, considering one of my friends just got told no, and he's incredible, I feel kind of not great. And that's when she was like, what can I do to get you out of your head and in the zone? And I just said, I want to know where my dad is, and I want you to take me to him.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, done. And the reason it doesn't feel as much pressure is because when you see these auditions on TV, everyone's waiting in the hallway, right? Everyone's waiting in line to go in. And when people come out, everyone either cheers for them or, pats them on the back. Well, I was the last one, so I came out and it's 11 o'clock and I'm just there's nobody. There's nobody. People are tearing down the sets.
Wow.
There's no other contestants. It's just me in the hallway. I remember they're like, all right, we can head down to the lobby. I go down to the lobby, take a couple pictures, do a couple interview things, and then I'm grabbing all my stuff. And Luke Bryan's just casually walking out. He's just like, good job, Oliver. Heads to his Escalade. Katy Perry's walking to her Escalade. She's like, great job. And her little frou-frou poodle hops out of the car and starts running around. And her assistant's like, trying to catch it. It was just a really surreal experience. I was like, this is weird.
A surreal sounds pretty adequate. I can't imagine.
It was so strange.
Yeah. And then that just started the beginning of all the changes in your life, I imagine. From that point forward, things are a little different as far as your musical career.
Yeah, when you go onto that show, the thing is you don't really know how it's going to play out or what's going to happen.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't know I kind of knew the audition was going to be aired because it was the last one, and they usually always air the final audition.
Pressure was on.
But for a lot of people, when you audition for that show, you won't know if you're going to air until they tell you the week before it airs. And that's usually, like, to put it in perspective, my audition took place in November. The air date of that audition was somewhere around beginning of March.
Wow.
Meanwhile, between that time gap, we had already done Hollywood Week. We had been to Hawaii, and we had come back, and we were supposed to head back to LA in like a week's time from that air date. So there's so much that happens, and then like this big gap of time where you're just kind of sitting there like,
that's wild.
Waiting.
Yeah, life keeps moving.
Yeah,
it hasn't even aired yet. So let's talk a little bit about your recent release, Too Soon, an original. And that song's about your journey. And I just thought it was correct?
Well, I mean, it was a song I wrote about a relationship that I had at the time that no longer exists. But it was sort of, I wrote it based on a feeling that a lot of my songs, I don't like to be hyper personal. I mean, sometimes I'll include little details about a person, but I like to write it more from the standpoint of a feeling. And Too Soon was really just about, in the beginning, it was sort of about just that feeling of when you're racing really fast with someone, and it feels great, but you're worried. You're like, is this happening too fast? And is it too soon to say those 3 words that I love you? Like, am I moving too fast? Essentially was what it was about.
Yeah.
I guess in a way, some of the lines really kind of parallel my journey, but really it was just a song about falling in love really fast.
I missed the mark totally. I'm a fool.
So you're good.
I know
You're good.
a little about songwriting, but what a great song.
Thank you.
And what are you working on now?
So I actually have a few things I'm working on. I am playing all over the place. I literally fly down to Florida tomorrow.
Cool.
For another benefit and a few more dates, come back, do a wedding, and more stuff to come. But I've got like 3 singles in the pipeline, one of which is a cover.
Yeah.
That we're going to do something really special with. I don't want to announce that too quickly, but I've got a single that I wrote and cut with Chris DiStefano, who's a producer, Grammy Award-winning producer that's worked with Luke Bryan, Brett Eldridge, Carrie Underwood, all sorts of people. And that's pretty much done. That song is mastered and ready for release. We're just looking for a release date right now. So.
Awesome. So a lot of stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And do you like staying busy? I mean, the moving around. I mean,
I love staying busy, especially because I too have to pay bills. No, we're
top of the pipeline. You got to keep it coming.
I love traveling. Like I love going all over the place. I got to go to Hawaii back in July, and that was to be back and not have to be in the Idol bubble. Which, don't get me wrong, I love the Idol experience, but when you're in Hawaii on Idol, you really don't get to go anywhere. You have to stay where you're at.
Yeah.
And it's a Disney resort. I love Disney, but that's not Hawaii. When I went back, I got to go all over the place and,
that's awesome.
and eat the local food and meet the local people. But yeah, I mean, I try to stay busy. We're taking bookings through November, December, January right now. So I'm staying as busy as possible.
That's awesome. What music are you listening to when you're just cruising around?
Depends on my mood. For me, music I've been taught there's only 2 types, it's good and bad. And it's all based on opinion. You might catch me listening to Jack Johnson one day, and then the next day I'm listening to Kendrick Lamar, or Mac Miller, or the next day I'm listening to Polyphia. It just depends on my mood. I listen to all kinds of music.
It sounds like you have a wide array of interests.
You have to. You have to have a wide array of interests.
Yeah, that's awesome. What advice would you give to a young man or woman who's thinking about moving into the industry? Maybe they're in high school or something. What could you, without scaring them to death?
You can be the most talented singer in the world, the most incredible guitar player, have the most incredible skills, but if you don't meet people, it doesn't matter. You have to get out of the bedroom. You have to go meet people. You have to make yourself available to people, be open, and communicate and network. I know people talk about, networking, but it's absolutely true. You have to network with people. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Great words of advice. I love networking. A lot of what we talk about on my podcast actually is networking. So that's interesting to hear that actually translate into the music industry. That's interesting.
100%. I mean, you said something earlier when I walked in, you were doing a different podcast, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's 100% true. I mean, connections make the world go round. And the thing about music is music was not made for one person to sit alone in a room and enjoy by themselves. You can, obviously, but music brings people together.
Yeah, wow.
And the music business relies on people coming together to make things happen.
Yeah.
It just does. Like a band, that's like everybody has to come together at a single place to make this one song happen. It's all about networking.
That's awesome. I love to hear that, actually. Networking is important. Very cool. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Oliver Steele Music on Instagram, Ollie Steele Music on Twitter, at whatever it's called, X, I don't know.
I don't either.
Oliver Steele Music on TikTok, Facebook as well, on Threads as well, if anybody's using Threads, the new one, whatever it is.
Cool.
Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm fired up to hear you perform here shortly. So, very excited. Thanks for coming by. Make your wish if awesome. Hey, thanks for coming
But I want to so bad.
Hey everyone, many thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow and click the bell to stay up to date on future episodes, or click the link to watch another previous episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and please leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your feedback.